Hello folks, welcome to Friday. You've made it to the end of your week, and if you are not at the end of your week, then hopefully you keep us going over the weekend, and thank you for working over the weekend to keep the world going round. I know how hard it is for some of you, so thank you very, very, very much. Just one hobby nightmare today, just the one, but it is one that I felt that it was really, really, really important for me to do. Simply because this is from somebody called Jared, who clearly needs some help re-establishing trust in people in the hobby, and it's something that I wanted to help with. So, sit back, relax, get yourself a nice cup of tea, or cocoa, or coffee, or whatever it is you're doing at the moment, and have a little look at this hobby nightmare. Before we do anything, though, if you like what I do, then please do support Composite Games. They do a hell of a lot for me in the channel. Their link is in the description down below. You get an extra 5% off at checkout if you use the promo code Northern Exile. And every single time you do that, it gives us a little bit more money to get some prizes for the channel and to make sure that we can actually go and do some things with the Astral Blades, which is also really cool. So, moving on. Jared the Goth says, "Hey North. Just wanted to share with you a tale of daring do, or a tale of absolute frustration. It really rocked my trust in people, and to this day, 2 years later, I still have trouble letting my guard down unless I get hurt again. And yes, this is a hobby nightmare. I've been an avid 40k player for around a decade now, since I was roped into it at university by a friend of mine we will call Rob. I started with Ultramarines, but quickly graduated to Necrons, as I fell in love with Trays in the Infinite. Well, which of us hasn't, man? Which of us hasn't? One of the best 40k characters, in my opinion. I also really loved a video game called Tales from the Borderlands, and one particular character in general, Loaderbot, who, spoilers, turns out to be a badass mechanical samurai during the games. Yes, I remember playing those. They were awesome, those games. It was like a Telltale style game, but it was one of the best ones they ever did. When I saw a few models of Necrons at my local game store, the image of Loaderbot immediately went into my mind, and I just had to give the idea a go. I brought some models home with me to begin thinking up a colour scheme. Now, this is in 2015, the summer to be precise. I got back and pored over Necron lore in what I can only describe to be one of the best evenings of my time at university. No classes, no essays, just sunshine, drinks with friends, The Witcher 3 that I just released, and my lovely undead robot boys. I loved everything about that summer. I get wistful just thinking about it. Wow, yeah, we've all had times like that. I think 2015 was a similar time for me. I think I was also having a really good summer that year, because I passed everything at university, so, you know, this is hitting home for me. In the end, I came up with a concept that would require some patience as well as skill. I ordered several samurai robes and katanas from online bit stores, and when they arrived weeks later, I set to work creating a small kill team just to test my theory of how these models would work. I ended up with several posed, robed, stoic-looking Necrons wielding vibro katanas. They looked like something straight out of a cyberpunk setting. I just had to do more. Over the summer, the force grew to include the wide-brimmed hats that samurai sometimes wear in the old Mikaro Mizaki movies. I can't really read that. Anyway, but in metal form. Steel composite bows instead of Gauss weapons, and lots of striking and running poses. I had a backbone of normal Necrons to fill out the force, but even they had robes and were replete with throwing daggers and other blades strapped to their backs. I painted the Necrons gold, yes, which I then pulled down in lots of washes before dry brushing silver over them to give this burnished, faded glory style of paint job underneath their robes. They looked immaculate. I would get lots of compliments in gaming days and normal games with strangers or friends. I was really proud of them and even started writing rules for them that people actually liked to play against. Yeah, that's the thing about normal rules, if you make up your own rules. Here's the thing that I found. There are some friends that you have or some people that you play, even if you make your homebrew rules really underpowered, they will still accuse you of cheating. But they'll only accuse you of cheating if they're losing. It's weird that, isn't it? You know, they'll only really go after your rules and say they're overpowered if they're losing. You know, if the dice are going against them and your underpowered rules are somehow bringing you through the game, that's when they start to bitch and moan. But, you know, Unfortunate, but there we are. I kept them about on par with normal necrons. They just did different things in terms of the rules. They kind of acted like an Age of Sigmar Stormcast Eternal army in the modern Age of Sigmar, but in 40k, and around the current Necron power level at the time. Okay, that sounds cool. The friend of mine who got me into the hobby in the first place, Rob, was really into the hobby, and at the time of this story, we had known each other for years and years in the past, but had fallen out of touch in terms of actually seeing each other for about 4 years. In January 2020, after university and when I'd gotten a real job, he was fixing to get married to a lady abroad, the Philippines to be exact, and he was very excited about flying out. Turns out he was about to have those plans scuppered by the plague that shut down the world. Anyway, at this point we had been talking for about a year or two online without actually meeting again, doing loads of online games together and talking about the hobby long into the night. Eventually the plague hit and his plans for now were scuppered. He was heartbroken, as he felt like this was one thing that was going well in his life was put on the back burner again and again and again. I really felt for him. Yeah, this is hitting home in a lot of ways for me, because I was in a similar situation with my missus when the outbreak happened. I was grounded in this country, and it put a lot of strain on our relationship, to say the least, going forwards. But anyway, on Tabletop Simulator, we would play lots of 40k in lockdown, but I could tell he was getting more and more anxious. I stuck with him and called him every few days, keeping his mind on the ball and his spirits high. You're a good friend, man. You really are. That takes a lot of mental strength to do that. I talked to his fiancée a few times, and she seemed lovely. Your typical South Asian lady in terms of being polite and respectful. She was pretty too. Still, it was good to be there for a friend, but I did notice that the place his fiancée was living in when she was on camera did not seem very big, or in an entirely nice area when I looked up online. This concerned me a little bit for his safety. One evening, I made the mistake of bringing this up with Rob, and he flew off the handle on me for daring to do such a thing, and that it was none of my business. And, to be fair, he was right. I felt like I was just looking out for a friend, however, by showing my concern. He seemed to hint that I wanted to stop him going because I liked hanging out with him and had no other friends, which was not true. Wow. Feel free to get angry with your friend for crossing the line a bit, but don't start making accusations about why he's concerned for you. That seems like a really dick move. Which was not true. I had lots of friends and went out of my way to make sure Rob was included with things when we met up to play Apex Legends or other games like that online. I put it down to the strain of him not being able to move yet and moved on. Fair enough. I like it when friends are able to do this, but one thing that I don't like is that sometimes folks do, how do I put this, take advantage of your good nature. And that they keep abusing you, they keep coming back and giving you more and more and more reasons to not like them until finally you reach a breaking point or a compromise in your friendship. Breaking up with dudes is really hard to do if you're a friend. I've had to do it once or twice where I've just had to say to somebody when they kept inviting me out, they were just really toxic with me and others and kept rubbing me up the wrong way. And several people I just had to say, listen, dude, I don't want to be friends anymore because you're not in the right place and I don't have the mental capacity to deal with you. Sorry. And people are always really shocked when you do it. They're always completely like, what? But again, I do it once a year where I have to say to somebody, listen, man, you're too toxic for me. I can't, when I say toxic, I don't mean you disagree with what I say. I don't mean that we have a disagreement or we have differing opinions. I generally mean you're just mean to me on a regular basis or mean to people that I know on a regular basis. So I just need to take a step back from this friendship for a little bit. And I think you've hit that wall here, to be honest with you, man. I really do think you've hit that wall. As of 2021 finally came around, Rob was able to book his flight and was extremely happy. I was happy for him and suggested we finally get together at his place for a 40k game in person with a bunch of our friends, and he agreed one weekend. We thought that we'd get a hotel and spend the night because he lived quite far away from us. Fair enough. What a good bunch of friends you are. Like, actually going out of your way to help this guy and actually to go to the other side of the country to play 40k with him. Awesome, man. He'd been becoming more distant as the time came for him to leave, which sucked, but hey, it must be just nerves or not wanting a long goodbye or something. I've known friends like that in the past when they've gone and joined the army or things like that. So I get there with a bunch of our friends and we have a great day rolling dice. My necrons do pretty well, but I notice Rob getting more and more agitated with my rules. Oh, here we go. Here we go. By this stage, they are pretty underpowered as the meta has moved on. And I've been advised by other friends to beef them up to be more competitive because I lose almost every game. But I know my boys like the back of my hand, so I don't want to do that. And plus, it makes sure people don't moan at me for writing my own rules. Well, fair enough, yeah, you found a compromise. Rob seems genuinely pissed, though, and acts like I'm cheating by using these rules. Fucking hell. Like, this is... Again, I've not read this yet. I have not read this story yet, so, yeah, that is... pretty sentient, to say the least, but pretty sentient, pretty prescient, to say the least. Yeah, you're experiencing what I've experienced many times. Whenever you go to a competitive person to play a game of 40k, and you've written your own rules, even if they've agreed for you to use them, and they've read them over before the game, if you start winning, they will start saying it's only because of your rules. If they're a competitive person, they just will. And I've met many people who've played my own rules and have really enjoyed it and have said it's made the game better and they've won or they've lost or whatever, but it's been a close game. But you will get people who don't trust anything if it doesn't have the words Games Workshop written on the front of it. It just is what it is. And they have every right to do that because, you know, sometimes people write their own rules and they have self-insert characters and they are well overpowered or they do things that just break the game in certain ways. Just always make sure that your army is either at the current meta level of the army you're playing or just underneath it. You know, just underneath it. I normally go for just underneath it. Like, my armies can do, like, one... the Astral Blades, the only chapter tactic we have, put it this way, is that when we deep strike in, we can charge 3d6. That's it. That's the only chapter tactic we have. We can charge 3d6 when we arrive from deep strike. That's the lot. That's all we get. We get other rules in the codex that I've written bits and bobs here and there, but it's always, you know, it's flavor. It's not like we now all do mortal wounds. It's nothing like that. It's just flavor stuff, and that's how you should keep your rules. And it sounds like that's what you've done. I don't have them in front of me, but it sounds like that's what you've done. So it'd be pretty shitty of somebody to like ream you out for these rules that aren't very powerful in the first place, just simply because they're losing. But anyway, to be fair, his Sisters of Battle should be hammering me at this point with their list. He had beautiful third-party models that he painted very nicely, as his list is made to break mine into shreds. The rolls go in my favour though, and as I said, I know my army like an old car. I know how to keep it running and how to get the most out of it. He sulks for most of the day after, and when we leave in the evening, we ask if we can leave our armies at the house, whilst we head out for a beer and go home. We say we will be back for them on Monday. This is Friday. We had asked Rob if he wanted to go out with us for a beer, but he declined, probably feeling a bit sore about the loss. But I went over to ask him if everything was okay. He simply said it was, and that he was just tired. He was not flying out until the following Wednesday, so he'd see me on Monday when I came back for my models. I said all right, made plans to get him a takeaway dinner, and for us to get stoned and watch Red Letter Media that night, and left. That's really cool. A man of culture. A man of culture who likes Red Letter Media. Good on you, sir. Good on you. If you like watching shit on YouTube, and you like having a laugh, or simply just, you know, having fun, go and watch Red Letter Media, but you'd love them. Like, they are really funny. And I'm really jealous of people who are watching Red Letter Media for the first time, because they've got all of that back catalogue to watch. I'm so jealous of you. Go and watch them. They're awesome. They are the YouTuber's favourite YouTuber, essentially. Let me just take a sip of my tea, 1 second. So, then Monday comes around. I head over there with my best weed, having gotten a few days off of work. I run an IT department, he says in brackets. Only to find no answer at the door when I call. I stand there confused for a while before knocking again and calling his phone. No answer. One of his neighbours comes out and asks me if I'm looking for Rob, to which I say yes. His neighbour tells me that Rob moved out on Saturday morning and points to the "To Let" sign in front of his house that I'd walked past on my way in. Oh, oh no. Don't tell me. I'm confused and, to my shame, immediately thought of my army rather than Rob. Yeah, I don't beat yourself up, man. I think a lot of us would be doing this as well. I kept calling him to no avail, and went back to the WhatsApp group to explain the situation. My friends were not happy. 4 armies were in the house, and we couldn't get to them. After a day of near panic, I called the estate agent who was selling the house, and they agreed to escort me around the property to pick up my models. When I went in, though, there was nothing. It was stripped clean, and ready for the next family to move in. A cold feeling seeped into my gut. Holy shit, man. Holy shit. He's not done this. Please tell me. That'll be such a horrible ending. Don't do this to me. Not on a Friday. When I got home, I went to message Rob yet again on social media, only to find that I had been blocked by his and his fiance's account. But not his family, however. I messaged them to explain the situation, and was met with concern and even some anger on my behalf that Rob had been acting strange for a few months. His mother even called me and profusely apologised for how her son had been acting. Wow. Soon after, Rob's social media accounts were all deactivated. I never saw or spoke to him again. I didn't want to believe he had stolen everything until May 2022, when, whilst browsing Instagram looking for baddies... I love this guy. I love this guy. Like, there's a disarming... there is a disarming quality to ravenous honesty that I just love. I'm on Instagram looking for baddies. Good lad. Good lad. I hope you find one. I hope you do well. Yeah, Instagram's a bit of a shit show, but I hope you do well, and I hope you're one of the miracle people who actually get a date from it. Well done to you. Whilst browsing Instagram looking for baddies, even the way you use the term baddies, I found Rob had used an old email to advertise his new painting service whilst abroad. Fucking hell. There, in the background, are our armies. Sitting proud as punch on a shelf behind him as he smiles and shows people how to paint the same colour scheme I was so proud of. Oh my god. To be fair, he's a great painter, and a lot of his original models looked pretty sick. But I saw my army there behind him and messaged him. I was so angry. I had lost friends over this, and as a few did not trust me after getting their army stolen by this piece of garbage. I threw everything at him, from threats of suing him to all sorts, but none of it stuck. He simply asked me to leave him alone and stop harassing him. Wow. Wow, this dude, man. This fucking dude. Like, how can you have no remorse? And good for you on not doxing his Instagram page, by the way, but how can you have no remorse for shit like that? I did go to a lawyer, and to his regret, there was little he could do. Not only was this an incredibly rare set of circumstances, Rob was on the other side of the world. No judge would even bother regarding a case like that if the other party could not even afford to travel for the proceedings. He could order Rob to pay me for the model, sure, but where would that get me? He wouldn't pay me, and there would just be no way to really enforce the court order with him being outside of the country. I'd just be out of pocket legal fees-wise. I thanked him for his time, and was forced to just move on. So there it is, the reason I find it hard to trust folks these days. Things have gotten better, but I still have not been able to pick up my army again and start all over on those beautiful necrons. Instead, I bought a memorial third-party model of an actual necron-like warrior in larger scale, where I converted him and painted him up, complete with bonsai trees, falling blossom, and birds around him as he strikes a warrior pose with his katana in the same colour scheme as my old necrons. It reminds me on my desk at work to be careful when dealing with others, and to paint up that army again one day when the wound is not so raw. Thanks for reading, Jared the Goth. Fucking hell, man. Fucking hell. I can only say sorry for your loss of models, and yeah, maybe... But you couldn't see that coming, man. There's no way you could see that coming, that this guy was just going to disappear and take all your models with him. And 4 armies, by the way, that is a hell of a thing to try and take on with you when you go abroad. That is such a bullshit move, man. That guy took you hook, line, and sinker. He even made plans with you to come on the Monday to take your mind off the scent. So, there's no way you could suspect a thing here. I'm sorry. You know, like I this would have gotten me as well. This would have definitely gotten me as well. The way that you've written it, I would have been taken as well. And a lot of the people watching this video would have also been hoodwinked by this guy. That is incredible. I'm so sorry that you've lost your army to that man. That is disgusting. But there we are. If you need to talk about it, I'm on the Discord, so is everybody else. For the rest of you, have a wonderful weekend. I'm sorry that story didn't end in a much happier note, but have a wonderful weekend. I will be back on tomorrow, where we will be doing some, we will be doing some advice. I've been asked to do some advice videos that are away from the hobby, just for neckbeards and other people trying to graduate from neckbearddom. So I'll do some of that tomorrow, or maybe Sunday. We'll see. Over the weekend, though, at some point. Love you all long time. I will speak to you later on. Have a wonderful weekend. See ya.